Okay, what is good, everybody? It is your boy Bagel Brandon, and today I'm here to reluctantly give a bad movie review, a very bad movie review. I recently watched the new A24 movie titled Men. It's just titled Men, and I went into it with somewhat high expectations. I like a lot of A24 movies. They're a pretty good studio, and they have like some consistent themes throughout that make all of their movies kind of cohesive. Like they usually just have great cinematography, kind of more liberal ideas usually, and just in general, they're usually pretty good artsy type movies. But then they also have problems, and this movie is a shining example of the problems that A24 movies often have. And so we're just going to get into that today, and we're just going to talk about it. So basically, to give a kind of overview of what I think the movie does well, first, cinematography, it's great, it's beautiful, the location is beautiful, it's a very pretty movie, it's gorgeous. At the start, there's a lot of scenes in the woods and things that are just very, very pretty. It's just nice to look at in general, but it's a lot of like still shots that kind of linger for a really long time. And that's what a lot of this movie is. Just telling you that before we get into the negative parts of the movie. But also in the positive parts, the acting is good. All of the acting is essentially good. I can't think of a bad performance that is really given. Um, there's one character who looks like really, really weird, and like the character doesn't look real. Um, but aside from that, and like maybe the acting is kind of like plays a part into that. Maybe like perhaps maybe I'm not too sure. And the main character, Harper is her name. She sometimes like doesn't really seem scared or frightened, but I think it's more of a directorial thing and not so much an acting type thing. So yeah, that is it for the positives, though. I really did not like this movie, so let's get into the negatives. So, so first off, I want to address one of the cardinal principles and ideas of filmmaking, and that is show, do not tell. Okay, show, don't tell. All right. And the reason for that is because of the fact that it's filmmaking. You know what I'm saying? You have the ability to, you know, show instead of telling. You know what I'm saying? Um, since you're filming with a camera, you know what I'm saying. That's what you have the ability to do, and it's a visual art or like media form. So you're supposed to show and not tell. So one of the cardinal principles of filmmaking is to show and do not tell, okay? If, there is some type of tragic backstory or some type of action event or, something happens, whatever it is, just to show that and not tell us about it. The reason for that is because it's a movie, you know what I'm saying? If you wanted to just tell, then it could just be a story, or it could be, a book, or it could be say a song or whatever. But since we're making a movie, you're supposed to show us and not tell us. Now, this movie does something unique. Plenty of horror movies will tell you something kind of spooky that happens, and so they'll kind of violate that original principle, but it'll be because of like budgetary reasons or something else. This movie, however, does both. This movie shows you something and then tells you about it, or it tells you something and then it shows you it. And sometimes it'll show you something and then tell you it and then show you it again, or it'll show you it and then it'll show you it again and then it'll tell you about it. And the only reason why I can think of why the director decided to repeat so many of like the same themes so often is just maybe because he didn't have enough content to make to like fill out the runtime. I think that's probably something that the director struggled with throughout making this movie because it's not a very long movie. It's only an hour and 40 minutes, and when I was watching it, I kept on saying to myself, "Is this over yet? Is this over yet? What else are they gonna do? Why are they just padding off the runtime with this useless scene or whatever?" And I'm just thinking the whole time they could have cut like 40 minutes from this movie. um, and that I guess goes into one of my main problems with this movie is the fact that it is too long, like several A24 movies. This movie is simply way too long. This movie is an hour and 40 minutes, and it feels like it should have been a short story. By all means and accounts, this movie feels like it should have been a short story. like a direct to DV, direct to Hulu, direct to Netflix. 30 minute, 20 minute. Maybe they could do 30 minutes. 30 to 40 minute type thing. That's what it should have been. But instead, you get this very very boring movie, and that's another one of the main sins that you can do when making a film. You can either make a film really really good, really really action packed, really dramatic. You can make a film really suspenseful, really terrifying. You can make a film a lot of things, but the one thing that you should not make a film is fucking boring. And this movie is that. This movie is boring. This is the most boring movie that I've ever sat through, probably. Because at least when I'm watching movies like, here, I'll name some bad horror movies. The movie Ma that came out in like 2018 or so. That was taking the place as like, this is the worst movie that I've ever seen. That movie was taking that place for a good little minute. But the thing is about that movie, I was entertained throughout the entire thing. I wasn't bored. I didn't walk out of the movie wanting a refund. And I walked out of this movie literally wanting a refund. I was like, wow, this was such a waste of time. I could have literally stayed home. I could have watched a review. I could have waited till this movie came out on Hulu and watched it on like 2 times speed or something. Because that's what this movie's boring. Okay. This movie is just literally boring. And so I'll elaborate on that some with proper reasoning. So one thing that this movie does is it will drag and accentuate shots for like such a extended period of time, and that is a good thing to do if you're making a horror movie and if you want to build suspense and terrify your audience. This movie is not terrifying. It's not scary. It's not even really a horror movie in my opinion. So when the director will spend so much time lingering on these still shots, it'll just be a shot or whatever of just, I don't know, like her chilling at a bar or her chilling in the rain or whatever. And when you start to get into like the third act of the movie where everything gets trippy, everything gets all, what's real, everything is like a hallucination or whatever. When you get into that, everything drags. And I think the director thought that he was building up suspense and that, oh yeah, this is really going to get the audience going. They're going to be scared right here. But it's not at all scary because if you have like half a brain cell going into this movie, which you should because it's rated R, then you're going into this movie, you're gonna know that everything that she's saying is a hallucination. You know what I'm saying? Towards the end of the movie, like none of this is real. The threat in this movie are men, and it is a little bit anxious at the start, but as the movie starts to go on, as the movie progresses, that threat becomes less and less real, if that makes sense. So even though the movie was supposed to get more and more scary, it got less scary to me because I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Oh, I know what's about to happen. Oh, and I'm trying to like avoid spoiling, but maybe I just should. Here, okay, I'm gonna give some more like general overviews of the movie, and then I'm gonna get into spoilers. Okay, so first of all, this movie doesn't really have a message. The message is something that you can extrapolate from just the title and the trailers alone. It's just men are bad. Some men are abusive, and the men who aren't abusive still contribute to the patriarchy. That's basically the message of the movie. You could have stayed home. You don't need to go watch this movie to get that message. Everybody knows this. You're watching an A24 movie. You think anybody's going to watch some artsy ass A24 movie that doesn't know that men are bad? Like it's just redundant. You're beating a dead horse. So there's not really any characters. Every character is just a one-off stereotype, essentially, including the main character, by the way. Um, this movie doesn't have any depth at all. one of the one of the things, like, I looked at good reviews of this movie because I was like, surely people do not like this, right? And essentially all the reviews are 1 star, and there's a couple 5-star reviews. There's no like really in between. And all of the 5-star reviews are like, wow, this movie's so deep. This movie, if you didn't like this movie, you just didn't understand it, or you want a message spoon fed to you, or stuff like that. No, no. No, 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 no. I'm gonna stop that right here. This movie is not deep at all. This movie is very fake deep, actually. So I mean, it convinces some people that it's deep, but there's no real depth to this movie at all. what you get at face value is what you get. This movie is so over the top with its artsy, this is a message type scenes or whatever, that you can't interpret it anyway besides besides, okay, this movie's trying to be deep. You like, that's the only way that you can interpret this movie. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's gonna walk out of this movie and be like, wow, I really thought that this actually happened and this wasn't just supposed to be an allegory or a metaphor. You know? So yeah, I'll say that. I'll get into spoiler talk later. Um so yeah, there's a couple of things involving religion and stuff too. Maybe people think that is deep or whatever, about how maybe like Christianity vilifies women, which it kind of does, but it also vilifies men. So I don't really get the message there that's being put out. It seems like the director or writer, he probably did both. The director is, by the way, a white dude. Since you got the priest and you got the other dude at the church or whatever. And there's like these kind of like statues of like Adam and Eve or something. I don't really know. There's like these statues that keep on popping up through these like kind of dream-like sequences throughout the movie. Um, and like, there's no reason for that to be in the movie at all. It's like maybe he just read Genesis and was like, oh, Eve ate the fruit, and so therefore she's causing all of the bad things to happen to everybody. All of the sins are because of women. And that's the plot of Genesis, kind of like, it's not even really the plot, but it's like that kind of happens in Genesis in the Bible. So therefore, I'm gonna put this tree, and it's gonna have these apples, and oh my god, he hammers home this message so hard that at the beginning of the movie, when the landlord is showing off the house to the main character, he's like, make sure you don't eat any apples from the tree outside. It's the forbidden fruit. Like, bro, do you think we're stupid? It's a movie called Men, and the main character is a woman who's abused, and there's a tree in her front yard, and the tree will often shake and fall, and there will be apples. Do you really think that anybody watching this movie was like, I wonder what's going on with these apples in this tree? No, we all fucking know that you're trying to reference Adam and Eve in the Bible. You don't have to include that line of dialogue. We're not stupid, okay? This director thinks he's smarter than everybody, man. He thinks that, oh my god, he thought that he made the most deep shit ever, man. It's so cringe. And it's just like throughout the scenes, there'll just be flashes to this damn statue or whatever of like a vagina. That's what the statue is. I don't really know how else to say, but it's like he watched like Hereditary, maybe, or maybe like Midsummer, or like I don't know, some other movie, and it was just like, oh wow, these movies include themes of religion. I'm gonna do that. Hereditary includes, this kind of like in depth, pretty cool, like Bible lore or whatever, and lore from like witchcraft books and stuff like that, and occult stuff. That's pretty cool. And in Midsummer, Ari Aster has like different religious themes of this like kind of Nordic cult of people or whatever. Hmm. Well, I guess I'm an A24 movie also. I need to include religion somehow in there. It's like that's what he was trying to do. But it just falls flat. He just does it lazily. It's just disappointing, just like the rest of the movie. So yeah. When in reality, in the Bible, everybody's the bad guy. Women, men, every race, Romans, Jews, everybody the bad guy in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm gonna get into spoiler talk now. This movie sucks. Don't go watch it. So yeah. If you really do care about spoilers, though, and if you do want to see this movie, which I suggest that you do not, um, I'll explain the plot, so you don't have to watch the movie. You can just rely on good old Bagel Brandon. All right. So basically, what happens in this movie? It's a white woman, and she was abused by a black man. Classic. Classic. No stereotype there at all. That was definitely a good angle to go with for your movie. But it's a white woman in she's like Welsh or something in the UK, and she's abused by this black man, and he hits her, and then he kills herself. He kills himself. And she doesn't know whether it's on accident or whether it's on purpose or whatever, and that basically traumatized her. That's it. That's the plot. That's the plot of the movie. That is the plot of the movie. The whole movie is exploring this victim of abuse who isn't even really like a victim. He hits her one time and then he self deletes. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like she was in like a prolonged, continual abusive relationship or whatever. No, he hits her one time and then he self deletes. You know what I'm saying? So like first of all, even on the premise, I'm like, okay, like I'm supposed to feel like some, like she's at this church and she's screaming and crying and she, like books this, or she either buys a house or like books an Airbnb. I'm not too sure. I missed like the first minute of this movie because I was late. But she rents out this house or she buys it. I'm not too sure. In the countryside so that she can, go heal and stuff or whatever. And like she's doing all of this. She's going on these strolls, trying to reclaim her humanity and her whole hallucinations that she's suffering towards the later half of the movie and stuff. You know what I'm saying? She's going through all of this turmoil and trauma, and I'm like, all of this because a dude hit you one time. He hit you one time, like, like I'm sorry, but like I know women in real life who have suffered greater abuse than this. There are women in my family who have suffered greater abuse than this. Like, you're not creating that big of a victim for me to even feel bad for her, for me to find it believable that she would go to this lengths and be put through this much mental turmoil. Now that might be kind of a weird angle, you know what I'm saying? The fact that I'm like downplaying what this character went through, but it's not that much. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not anything crazy. I'm thinking maybe the director was like sheltered or something, and it's like, yeah, people don't know that women go through abuse or whatever. So I'm gonna really hammer this home what she went through, and basically like what you get is you get like 4 or 5 scenes, which are between you get like 4 or 5 scenes that basically all tell you the same thing. You get like an artsy scene or whatever where it's the dude and it's his dead body at the bottom of like where the apartment is where he jumped off to kill himself. Self delete. Sorry, YouTube. I think we're deep enough into the video. I don't think it matters anymore. But but you get like one artsy shot like that or whatever. So I was like, he self deleted. You know what I'm saying? That's what I get when I first see that, right? And then later on in the movie, she's telling a priest, exactly what happened, and I'm like, oh wow, he self deleted. And then there's a scene where the main character and her ex husband are talking to each other, and they're and then he hits her or whatever, and then he's like Harper, I'll self delete. I'll do it and it'll be on your head. Wait, excuse me. He's like, Harper, I'll self delete. I'll do it and it'll be on your hands. I'm gonna kill myself and it's gonna be your fault, Harper. And then she's like, what? Why? She's like, what? Why would you say that? In like her little accent or whatever. And I'm just like, bro. I'm like, you didn't need to show us this like 7 times, man. We fucking get it. All right, we get it. There are people that are saying this movie is deep and you want stuff spoon fed to you. How more can the director spoon fed to us this message than showing us her abuse like 3 different times and then telling us about it like 5 different times? Hard. Like, I felt like the director thought that I was like stupid. Actually, just let me talk about this third act. This third act it's just ridiculous. He's just trying to give you like gore and trauma and stuff like that or whatever. But it's very like you can tell very quickly that none of it's real. Like there's like the character who's her landlord or whatever. He comes through at a point or whatever. But like as soon as he comes in or whatever, and then like as soon as he leaves, everything from that point is obviously not actually happening. That's like the shock value thing. And then basically from that point on, it just cycles through all of these really, really, really long, accentuated scenes of dragged out scenes of all of the, men who abused her in this movie, or like her attacker, the home invader, basically is just cycling through all the different men who like abused her or whatever throughout this movie. There's like a dude at a church who called her a stupid bitch or whatever, and then there's a priest who like made a kind of weird sexual advance on her, and then he's like, "Why'd you make your husband kill himself?" And I thought that was like supposed to be like a hallucination at first, but I guess that actually happened. I'm not too sure. So he like victim blames her. And it was like, oh, he's victim blaming. You know, you're supposed to believe women are the victims. Ooh, you know. So like that's basically that message that you're supposed to drive home there. It's just like, bro, like. It's just like this white man just decided to go on Tumblr or whatever and like listen to women's problems for like a week or something. I don't know. Where do women talk about their problems? It's not Reddit. I'm guessing like Tumblr or something. I don't know. Or he like joined like an Instagram all women community and just like listen to women talk about the things that they go through with men or whatever. And he just put all that into a movie. Just all of the mainstream stuff. Oh, a victim blamer. Oh, a dude's kind of creepy or a dude's kind of weird and that creeped her out or whatever. Oh, a dude offered to buy her a drink at a bar. Oh, I think I'm like less than because of that. Stuff like that is basically it. Oh, a random dude at a church called her a bitch or whatever. Oh, the cop didn't do enough. That's another one. Like is that there's a police officer and he doesn't do enough to stop this naked man from breaking into her house or whatever. Right. So, which yeah, that's like the plot of like the first half of the movie is that there's this naked man on the loose who's trying to break into her home and stuff. And at first, I thought they were gonna go like a sci-fi route, like maybe like this town was churning out this naked weird man with like leaves growing or something. Maybe I don't really know, but no, they don't really go anything. They don't really go anywhere with that at all. It's just he's just a naked man. If then finally cycles back to her ex-husband or whatever, and they have like a little conversation, and then the movie ends. Also, some of the ways that they turn the different men into her life, like into each other, if that makes sense. Because like I'm not sure if I've explained it too well, but essentially the second half of the movie is uh, there's someone trying to invade her home, and that home invader kind of gets in, and so then it just is cycling through different scenes where the home invader will be the priest, who is kind of creepy, and made like a weird sexual advance and then victim blamed her. It'll be the priest at one point, and then it'll be the dude who called her a stupid bitch at the church, and then it'll be the dude who offered to buy her a drink at the bar, and then it'll be her landlord, and then finally like this kind of all culminates into the different men who abused her giving birth to each other and like a close-ups on like the bussy that they were giving birth to each other with. Like a literal like vagina is on each of the different men, and they're like giving birth to each other. I'm not kidding. And finally, the final man that is birthed is and the CGI here looks awful. It looks terrible, And I'm just like, bro, how could you be like scared by this? I'm like it's just the most goofy looking CGI ever. And then finally, it turns into her husband or whatever. Like the creature finally gives birth to her husband, and then they have a little sit down talk or whatever at the end, and that's the end of the movie. You gotta go deeper than this, dog. You gotta go deeper than the creepy priest. You gotta go deeper than the creepy landlord. You gotta go deeper than the abusive black man. Like you gotta go deeper than that. So, but he doesn't, and that's the movie, and that's Men. So yeah, if you enjoyed this review and this kind of rant, please leave a like, please subscribe. I'm over it. I'm tired of talking about this movie. This movie is so tiring. This is the worst movie theater going experience that I've ever had. That's all I got for y'all. I'm out.